Hello everyone, Blitz here. This is my review on the new Fantastic Four movie. Now this movie has been out for a month and I finally watched the movie and my review will go into spoilers, so watch at your own risk. I won't go too deep into it, but I will talk about the story, the characters, post and credits, things I like, and some of the problems with the movie. I'll probably don't have that much and go over some nitpicks I have. The Fantastic Four is on its fourth reboot. Yeah, that's ironic. To those who don't know, there was a Fantastic Four movie that was made in the 90s that never had a theatrical release. It was only made to keep their Fantastic Four rights. And there's the two in the early 2000s that were fun, and there's Fanforstic 2015. They have to make these movies every 10 years just to keep the character rights. And everyone knows that Fantastic Four doesn't have a great track record on the movies. And how is this one? It's fantastic. It's pretty good. Maybe this time the general audience will start to see this team as fantastic. One thing I like to add, I don't read comics and I'm not a big fan of the team, but I like them. I like superhero movies. This movie takes place in a separate universe on a different Earth. So you don't have to do homework and watch 30 other movies and 15 shows to understand. You don't even have to watch the other Fantastic Four movies either to understand. But you did have to watch the shows for Captain Falcon and Thunderbolts for certain characters to understand most of it. Before I get into the story, there's a few things I'm going to talk about. The first thing, the movie is an hour and 55 minutes long, and I feel like it was 10 minutes longer than that. Some scenes from the trailer aren't in it. The CGI is pretty good for most of it. They barely use their powers sometimes, and there aren't a lot of jokes in this movie, which is a good thing. The only main joke in this movie is the number four. Hence, it's the Fantastic Four. They keep telling anything that has four in it, like we're a group of four, 4 years later, four certain scenes and flavors, jokes, just like that. The story of this movie, or the main message about the movie, is about family. Reed and Sue are having a kid, and their planet is marked for death, and they have to do everything in their power to save it. Like I said, this movie takes place on a different universe. The first 20 minutes tells us about this world and the team. They skip the whole origin story of the team. They talk about it, they didn't show it. In this world, the people, they love the Fantastic Four and tell us about it. They show us a small montage of the team using their powers and saving lives and fighting villains, like the Mole Man using their powers like an everyday thing, which is a thing I love seeing, superheroes being superheroes. They making a peace treaty with all the nations except Liberia, Doctor Doom, and I also love the futuristic 60 vibes. The first character I'm going to talk about is Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic. I know a lot of people are tired of seeing Pedro Pascal and everything, and I believe that he's getting casted in all the biggest IPs, and that's probably why. He is really good in this. I don't understand all the science stuff at all because I'm stupid. He really cares for his wife, and he's kind of not ready to be a father yet. When he was hit with this announcement, he is coming up with so many scenarios and bad ones on how to protect her and the baby. Most of the time is spent elsewhere. He has Herbie building the baby crib instead, and Sue is kind of upset about that. He's coming up with ways to find a way to stop Galactus from taking their child because he thinks something is wrong with him. So he keeps listening to his head instead of his heart to find a way to solve the issue. And he does think about giving the baby to him, but not really. And throughout the film, he's experimenting on teleportation, and I'll talk more about this later. And he's going to use this idea machine of his to teleport the Earth outside of Galactus' path. Reed relays way too much on his brains throughout the film. His performance is good, but I do like the other actor in the 2005 movie more. Nothing to do with nostalgia. Invisible Woman Sue Storm is good. She's having a child, and she is very protective as a mother. Well, she'll lay down her life just to protect her family and child. She gets upset at Reed of the idea of using her child as bait to lure Galactus in to stop him. When their planet was marked for death, the team gets their spaceship ready to go confront Galactus and negotiate with him on not getting their planet destroyed. It's a bit dangerous having a pregnant woman go into space, and I'm no medical expert on that. I don't think that's a good idea at all to have her in a rocket. And another thing, the civilians seems a little too close to the rocket. So they went off to space and did the light speed thing, and went to Galactus' ship and were beamed into the ship. He scanned their ship and Sue Storm herself and noticed her baby. They couldn't negotiate with him, and he made her go into pregnancy faster, and they kind of fought him and the Silver Surfer. They couldn't shake her off. They went through a black hole just to get her stuck in the gravitational pull for a while, which was cool. Which was a cool chase scene. And Sue had her baby born in space, and then went back to Earth. They told the people of Earth they couldn't negotiate with Galactus, and he was on his way, and the people who love and respect him started to hate the Fantastic Four, and it made things very difficult for the team for a while. And sometime later in the movie, when the people started to get out of control, Sue Storm stepped in and introduced them to her son and to calm them down, saying she won't sacrifice her son for the world and won't sacrifice the world for her son, and saying that they're all family and plan to save them all from Galactus. It was a powerful scene where she was saved everyone, which I like. Later, when they were fighting Galactus, when he was taking their child, she went all out using and pushing her powers to the limit and sent Galactus through the teleportation device in the far side of outer space. And she dies, and her son, Franklin, brought her back to life, which is something I'll talk about later. And the day was saved. I might talk about Franklin or something. I don't know. The Human Torch, Johnny Storm, Sue's brother, is my favorite character in this movie. He's a little immature and childish, and he's supposed to be the comedic relief character, but he doesn't really joke around that much. That is a red and green flag at the same time. In the comics, he's the character that always jokes a lot, and they don't do it a lot in this movie. And this movie isn't overfilled with jokes. Johnny gets some of the best scenes in this movie. He is interested in the Silver Surfer. He chased after her when his planet was marked for death, and he caught up with her in her surfboard, and she said something to him in her language, so he spends his time trying to decipher what she said. He spends most of his time listening to a lot of these distress calls that have been coming from other planets. Johnny isn't dumb in this movie. He's actually really smart. When he was in Galactus' ship, he went up to the Silver Surfer and asked what she said to him. She translated her language of what she said to him, saying that to die with yours. Another point in this movie, which is my favorite part, when the Silver Surfer is destroying Reed's plan to save the planet, Johnny started chasing her to get her attention, to get her to chase him. Johnny started playing a bunch of recordings of those distress calls all over Times Square that stopped her in her tracks of her listening to all the cries and pleads for mercy and help of the other planets begging not to be destroyed. They were eaten by Galactus. Johnny translated and started to speak her language, where he said to her that he would defend his planet and protect his family and wants to save her too. She broke down from the recordings and felt guilty and just ran away. Johnny would sacrifice himself to protect his family and to save others. I really like him for that. Ben Grimm thing doesn't get a lot of focus in the movie. Ben is one of those characters that resonates and reflects on himself, on what he becomes. They don't do a lot of that where he hates what he becomes. He thinks he's a monster, but no, they don't do that. There are moments where he looks at his reflection in shop windows and TVs, and he wonders if he would be better, if he's better off as human than rocks. He's walking around town interacting with the people and making the kids happy by showing off his powers and talking to this teacher where it feels like where they are going to form a romance there, but they don't focus on that a lot. He's very protective of his family and is there for them, and he hates the catchphrase, "It's clobbering time," but he does it around the finale battle. Sorry for not saying a lot of stuff about Ben, but they don't give him a lot of attention, but he's good in the movie. Herbie the Fantastic Four robot is so much fun and adorable. He listens to all the commands of the team, but he also gets scared a little bit when he was tasked of baby-proofing the Fantastic Four building. Ben is not paying attention to his surroundings, and he keeps tripping and falling, and he just yells at Herbie when he does that, but that's what all Herbie does. He's just a little helper, and he's cool. The Silver Surfer is decent in this movie. She doesn't get a lot of focus. Then try doing a plot point with her and Johnny, but it doesn't go into it that much. When Johnny learned her language and showed the calls of other planets begging for mercy, and he asked how many families were killed just to feed Galactus, and showed her having a mental breakdown and showing her backstory of how she abandoned her family to spare her planet to become Galactus' herald, and she just leaves the story and comes back, sacrificing herself to stop Galactus by tossing Johnny to the side and throwing herself into Galactus through the teleportation device, saving the Earth. Yeah, that's pretty much it to her story. The one character I finally want to talk about is Galactus. They finally showed Galactus in this movie, unlike the last one. And this man has the aura, the presence, and he is great, he's big and intimidating, and kind of scary. But he does hold back a lot in this movie, and it's noticeable. When the Fantastic Four are on his ship, when they try to negotiate with him to not to destroy their planet, Galactus wants Reed and Sue's son, the kid, so he can pass his curse of eternal hunger to him because the kid is so powerful for some reason. And he got angry when they said no for obvious reasons. He threatened their world and says he'll destroy the Earth slowly until he gets his hands on the kid, and made Sue automatically go into labor. And Johnny flames on and destroys his feeding tubes on the back of him, and he tries to reach in for them and to recover from the attack. Later, when he arrives on Earth, he is scanning New York for the kid. Then he goes after him. I do want to mention my big nitpick. I know nitpicking in comic book movies is stupid, but when trying to add realism, I'm going back to Reed's plan. He invented teleportation when he mentioned to the planet that Galactus is on his way to Earth. He gets every nation to agree to his plan to build giant teleportation devices on certain places on the planet to synchronize to teleport the Earth in a different place in the universe, and they only have 37 hours to do so. This is when Galactus is on his way. It's physically impossible to build these devices in that certain amount of time because these things are giant, and I guess they are desperate. And even thinking about it, even more, if they teleported the planet into a random place in the universe, they need a sun to survive. Maybe they thought that through, or they didn't. So this plan failed because the Silver Surfer destroyed all of them but one. They tried using it on Galactus, but he obviously saw it right in front of him and went straight to the Fantastic Four building where they were hiding the kid, and the team, mainly Mr. Fantastic, Human Torch, and the Thing, was fighting him. He flings the Thing to space, and Johnny has to go get him. And Galactus was fighting Mr. Fantastic, and he grabs him and started stretching him before he could kill him. And Johnny and Ben comes flying in and hits him, and they all get knocked out, but Galactus is barely affected. And he grabs the kid and was about to leave, but I did already explain this. That Sue passed her limits, holding Galactus back, then throwing him in the teleportation device, and that's where his story ends. The post-credits takes 4 years after the movie where the kid is about 4 years old. It's in the Baxter building, the Fantastic Four building, where Sue is reading a book to Franklin, and she goes to get another book, and she senses something is wrong. So she slowly walks towards her kid, and she activates her powers and sees a figure leaning over her kid, and the screen goes dark. The figure is Doctor Doom, and the end credits are a in-universe cartoon. My favorite things, pun intended, in the movie are the opening credits, where they are showing a montage of them saving people, a lot of the Johnny and Silver Surfer scenes, and the Galactus stuff. I already went through my major nitpicks, like building the gigantic teleporters in 37 hours, and Sue going into space pregnant. I don't care for most bad CGI and effects because if there was any, it's barely noticeable. And I do think it's a bit longer than its 1 hour and 55-minute runtime. Feels like it's 10 to 15 minutes longer. This movie kind of flopped at the box office, and I really don't have a definite answer for that, but I probably have a few speculative questions. I don't really think a certain director fan base can blame James DCEO for this movie failure. They want to win, but they hate Marvel. Another reason, after the last few years of bad and mediocre movies, Marvel just lost the trust of their fans of quantity over quality. I think just superhero movies just lost their spark. And another reason, people need to watch 30 other movies and shows to understand this one. You don't. And people think you have to see Fantastic 3, 2, or 1. That's a real question people have to just understand this movie. Fantastic Four is just the name of the team. And the last reason, the terrible 2015 movie left a bad taste in people's mouths, and just think the Fantastic Four are just lame and boring. That's all I have to say for the Fantastic Four First Steps. It's just a really solid movie, just decent to get them in the next Avengers movie, just to make them cool. They just play it safe for this one. If you have seen it, tell me what you think of it, and I'll see you all later.